So if you want to understand human history, you need to internalize certain concepts. So in history class, in our culture, you're taught certain myths about who we are, okay? So I'm going to go over some of these myths and show you they're wrong, explain why we have these myths, okay? So the first myth is that we are materialistic. We like money, sex, and power. Okay? The truth of the matter is that throughout most of human history, we had three goals or three concerns. The first is that we have a religious impulse and we want to express this religion through art, through music, through dance. And what I mean by religion, I mean that we have three questions in our heads. The first question is, where do we come from? Second question is, why are we here? And the third question is, where are we going? That's why we had religion, to answer these three questions. Okay? And that's why we still have religion today. Second thing about us is that we're all diverse and we want to differentiate ourselves. We want to stand out. And the last thing is we are curious and we want to explore. That's fundamentally who we are. Then the question then is, why are we telling you that we're materialistic? And the answer is, it's better to control you, okay? So in a society, there's a hierarchy and the people in charge, they want you to work hard. They want you to be obedient. But if you believe that you want to explore, then you're not going to be obedient enough, okay? Does that make sense? Okay, second myth is, and this is going to be hard for you to understand, what you're taught is that the nuclear family, father, mother, children, that's the most natural human unit. And it's not true. Actually, if you look at most ancient societies, the most natural organization is that women are usually in control. Why? Because women have complete autonomy over their bodies. So they can choose who to have sex with. And that's where the power comes from. They control access to sex, which gives men pleasure. And with this power, they often choose to sleep with as many men as possible. Okay? And there are three reasons why they choose this strategy. The first is, it's fun, okay? It gives them pleasure to have sex with as many men as possible. That's number one. Number two is, women are really good at negotiating politics, and they use sex as a political strategy. So if two guys are fighting each other, she has sex with both, and then voila, they're best friends now, okay? So women are very good at managing emotions through sex, okay? And then number three is the most important. If you're a woman, you want to make sure that all your children grow up successfully. They don't die, okay? And they're happy and they're healthy. So from your perspective, it's your advantage to hide paternity, to hide the fact who the father is. Why? Because now all the men in the village, in the community, are responsible for raising a child. Because no one knows who the real father is, so everyone assumes that I could be the father. Okay? And this is historically how societies are usually organized, with the woman in charge. And as such, societies tend to be very egalitarian because women don't really care about status and power. They care about harmony and balance. And the question then is, why did we change? And there's actually a very simple reason. The simple explanation is in order to produce more children. Because if you're a woman, you don't want to have too many children. You want to make sure that all your children have access to resources, but you also want to stay healthy, right? If you have too many children, it's possible you could die in childbirth. It's also possible that your children die in childbirth as well. So women have always practiced population control. But when we switch to a patriarchy, now we can have as many children as possible, okay? Because now women are basically become slaves, and their main duty is to have as many children as possible. And that's why after the transition from matriarchy to patriarchy, a lot of women start to die, okay? So that's number two. Number three is humans believe in survival of the fittest. And that's not true. Historically, if you look at how societies are organized, we tend to be compassionate. We look after the ill. We look after the elderly. We look after the weak. Okay, that's who we are. We have empathy. We care about other people. So why do we believe in survival of the fittest? It should create fear and anxiety. Okay, if you have fear and anxiety, you work harder, but also it's easier to control you. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, all right, let's continue. Number 4, humans have gotten smarter over the centuries. And one thing that you will learn in this class is that's not true. Humans have always been smart, but we've expressed our intelligence in different ways. So primitive cultures, they express themselves through art. They had better memories, they were more sensitive, and they were more resilient than we are. So why are we taught that we're smarter? The answer is confirmation bias, because everyone likes to believe that we're smarter than the people who came before us. Okay? So now let me give you an example of how smart they were. So let's just say that you have a boat and you want to navigate the Pacific. Okay? That's very hard to do, and you usually need a computer. Why? Because there's so much information that you need to process in order to navigate the ocean. Okay, so let's go over some of the information. All right, so these are the Polynesian people. What's amazing about them is they settled the entire Pacific. Wherever there's an island, they had a settlement. And this is a testament to our desire to explore the world, okay? What is fascinating is how they did this, because if I were to put you in a boat in the Pacific, you'll probably die, okay? And that's true for most people. So the question then is, how do they navigate the Pacific? Well, what they did was this. They built boats that allow them to navigate the Pacific, but as you can see, these are not large boats, okay? So they had to get to an island fairly quickly. So what they needed to do was read the stars. So in their heads, they were able to map out the stars, and from the stars, figure out exactly where they were. They also had to memorize oceanic currents, okay? How the oceans were moving in order to better navigate the ocean. Also, every island has its own distinct oceanic ecosystem, okay? So there's so much information that they have to take in. They have to look at the wind, they have to look at the oceanic currents, they have to look at the stars. And that's why we have computers to do this for us today. But back then, they didn't have computers. So they had to do this all in their heads, okay? And they had some maps that helped them, okay? So this is a map of the stars, and this is a map of the oceanic currents. But they were all doing this in their head. And what's really amazing is, while they were out in sea, they couldn't sleep, okay? They had to keep track of all this information to know exactly where they were. If they fell asleep, the navigator fell asleep, they got lost, and then they died. Okay? That's the power of the human imagination. Okay, last myth. We evolved from apes. And the truth is that we are imaginative and we can choose our own evolution. Okay? So you're taught in school about the theory of evolution, how we evolved from apes. And maybe our bodies evolved from apes, but our minds did not. Our minds come from somewhere else. Okay? So why are you taught we evolved from apes? It's to justify the power hierarchy, okay? Right? The people in charge are just stronger and better and more fit than we are.